Annie, come look at what one of our patrons gave us. Isn't this plant beautiful?
Oh, yes, very lovely. What kind is it?
No idea. I think we should put it right here near the cash register.
Works for me. It really brightens up the space.
The soil feels kind of dry. I will give it some water. Uh-oh.
Wow, look at it grow. This could become a problem.
And so I told him this season of the Bug Hunters Café is made possible by Soft Terrific and Mousepaw Media.
What did he say?
You'll never believe it. He said that, where did this vine come from, and why is it drinking my coffee?
Maybe it likes mocha cappuccino.
Where in the world did all these vines come from?
I don't know, but I don't like it. It grew out of nowhere, came over, took a sip of my espresso without coffee, and then knocked the whole thing on the floor.
I'm not sure which part of that sentence I find most disturbing.
And Jocelyne made my espresso with double rainbows.
Oh, well, I know I can help cheer you up. We're meeting with someone really cool today, and you'll never guess in 1,000 years who.
Could it be Jocelyne Morin-Nurse? Executive consultant, leadership trainer, chief of the Forbes Business Council Employee Empowerment Group, and the founder of Centus?
You read my notes.
I don't even know where you keep your notes. It was just a lucky guess.
Oh, some guess. Oh, hi, Jocelyn. Mind the vines that seem to like grabbing feet and coffee.
Hey, hi! Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Woof, I wasn't sure I was going to make it. What is with these vines? Wow, they're everywhere. Man, excuse me. No, sorry. No, my chair. Okay, thank you. Boy.
I'm not sure what this is. They brought in a potted plant and it went crazy.
Apparently. Woof.
Well, we'll get to the bottom of it sooner or later. In the meantime, it seems to be drinking people's coffee too.
Great.
Yeah. So what would you like? You probably don't want to set it on the table, but can I get you anything to drink?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I am super thirsty. So I'm going to have a jumbo German chocolate cake mocha, and I would like it iced and non-fat, no whip, light ice, half sweet, please.
I'm so glad my short-term memory works in the cafe because that's
Cool.
easy. Well, we'll
Oh,
do.
and I brought my own reusable mug too, just in case I don't finish it.
Oh, excellent! Yeah,
Thanks.
I'll make sure that gets filled up. And Bojan, I'll get you a refill of that espresso without any coffee with double rainbows. And I'll bring it in a cup with a lid this time, so the plant can't sample.
Yes!
Nice.
Yeah, we will beat this vine if it is the last thing we do. All right, got my
I
machete.
hope it's
I'll
not
be
the
right
last
back.
thing we do.
Yeah, well, probably not.
Yeah, hopefully not. Yeah,
No.
yeah.
All right.
We'd like
Well,
to get out of here live.
I'm just glad I happened to bring my machete with me today, so I'm going to make my way over to the
Good
counter.
call.
Yeah. See you in a few.
Jocelyne, it's a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I'm super happy to be here.
And I have one question.
Yeah.
Is it true that all Canadian people are telling constantly I'm sorry?
Okay, yes. Sorry.
Yeah. So my second question is, if I wanted to be a better leader, what should I do?
There are a lot of things that we need to do to be better leaders. And one of them, I would say, starts with being aware of our own filters. And what do I mean by that? We're all human, right? And we're leading other human beings. And when we are faced in leadership situations, we will view information through our own lenses. And so we need to learn what those lenses are so that we can more accurately react, behave, and understand what's going on with us before putting it onto the person. For example, if something goes wrong, and then I'm going to give you an example, like from a long time ago. Thankfully, I've grown a lot since then. But no, I still make mistakes plenty. But way back when, I remember working with this person on my team, and I felt like, why is this person constantly arguing with me? See, the person wasn't arguing with me. It was my own perception of the way they were talking because they were from a different culture that I hadn't been exposed to. And so, in learning more about that culture, I understood the person better. And then we had a good laugh about my interpretation of that person's behavior. And so, that's just an example of what we need to do to be better leaders. So, first of all, understand ourselves better because that's what we do, right? We're leading people. So, as people, we need to grow as people as well.
That sounds like such a simple thing, but I have found very little people in the positions of power or leadership who are willing to do all that extra work.
It is a lot of work. And I'm going to say, I think more and more leaders are embracing that philosophy. I think with, how recently there was a lot of talk of quiet quitting, great resignation, even I can't believe it, but quiet firing. I was like, really? That's your response? But anyway, so with all these things, I think it has pushed leaders to really re-examine how we lead teams, how we lead organizations, what we're doing with the culture. And I don't think that it's new. I mean, we look back, right? I read like Robert Greenleaf's Servant Leadership book. Man, did he write that, what, in the 60s, I think, something like that? But so he was presenting that idea of how leaders are there. Of course, he used the word servant to serve team members to make sure that they are better. So that was a long time ago. And if we think about like B Corps movement, I believe it came out of the Harvard Business School, if I remember correctly. And that was also a whole movement of trying to get corporations to have more of a conscience, to think more of the team members, to not just be all about let's maximize profits. It was also, hey, let's look after our team members because they're the most important part of the business. Okay, the most important part. It works together, right? So we have the business side. Clearly, that needs to work because if the business is not making any money, you can't sustain a business. So you need to be able to make money. At the same time, if you don't have the amazing individuals that make your organization work, you won't have a business for long either because you're going to have a lot of turnover. You're going to have problem recruiting because if everybody out there is going, ugh, don't go right there, how are you going to fill up your recruiting pipeline? And turnover is expensive when you have like people, just this revolving door of employees or team members, I prefer to call them, then that's costly. You have to onboard the people, train people, offboard the people, find somebody else, recruit again. So we don't want that. We want to find amazing individuals, then look after them, grow them, and then retain them, and then help them become the best individuals that they can be so that in turn they can also feel fulfilled and we can also have them produce well at work.
Here's your coffee. And I made sure the lids
Thank
are
you.
screwed down real tight. So, but don't set it on the table because I don't trust this plant.
Okay. Awesome. So thirsty. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, wait. Hey, geez, that vine tried to grab my straw. Don't do that. It's a metal straw, my own stainless steel straw, just by the way, no plastic.
Yeah, that is excellent. I caught the last part of that as I was hacking my way here, and I remembered that there was a company I saw where the turnover was, according to management, they were saying, well, our turnover is balancing out. We're bringing in people as fast as we're losing them. And I was looking at the situation. I said, you do realize that means you're losing because those workers leaving are taking all their knowledge with them. And so you are getting, at that point in the organization, they were close to like something. I was like, I could estimate like something like 75% knowledge attrition. And they didn't have a habit historically of documenting things. So there would just be people coming in, onboarding into a nightmare. And that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you, is because it's easy for us to look at bugs, software bugs, and just think, oh, we have to write better code or write better tests and whatever. But the human component is so important, because I've seen teams where there were a lot of bugs and it was a side effect of the leadership and communication structures producing
Yeah.
code.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The more I reflect on the various positions that I've had, the more I see a common element throughout the various organizations. And they're all in different fields. So there's one aspect of leadership that's very different, that's very tied to the job itself. So there are some things that are very specific. However, there is a huge component that is similar across the organizations, and that comes down to how we deal with human beings and how capable we are of that, and how aware the leader is. And I'm going to say, because you just mentioned bugs, one of the, I would say, people bugs in leadership is, especially in new leaders, is a lack of self-confidence. And so what happens is when, and I know, and I'm like, I was the first one to do this. Like when I was a new leader, I suffered from that bug as well. And I fortunately kind of outgrew it, but sometimes it rears its head. But early on, when a team member had a better idea than me, I felt threatened, because it was like, oh no, I'm the leader. I'm the one who's supposed to have all the solutions. I'm the one who's supposed to have more knowledge than my team members. And if I don't, maybe that means I'm not a good leader. That's not leadership. Leadership is me working with the team to get those ideas. If I have 10 people, at one point I had 14 people on my team, the direct reports when I was a supervisor, 14 people. If I cannot have better ideas pulling from 14 brains, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm not a leader, you know? And so in time, I've kind of grown and understood that no, my job isn't to have all the answers because I'm the leader. It's to elevate, it's to extract, it's to go in there and ask the questions that will elicit the solutions that I'm looking for or that the organization needs. So I would say that's definitely one of the bugs.
I can attest to that. I in my time leading teams of interns, I can't tell you how often I would have a college student currently in college intern. They'd only been there for a few months, and they look at something and go, "Why do we do it this way?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have an answer to that question. I because we do. Do you have an idea? What am I missing here? Because and I love having especially inexperienced developers on my teams, because they don't know the way things are supposed to work, in air quotes, the way things are
Exactly.
supposed to work. And so they go, well, why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. Because I read an article in a journal
Yeah.
somewhere. I don't know why I do that.
Oh, that's actually an interesting second bug, I would say, because you said, I don't know why I do that. I've also seen some leaders just lean into frameworks too much.
Mm,
Okay, we need to have a discussion. I'm going to use this framework that I read in a book. Like, you're trying to talk to a person, and unfortunately, okay, this is the French Canadian in me that comes out when
mhm.
somebody when I was just, I don't want to say just, but when I was a team member before I had a leadership experience, and when I had a leader trying to talk to me that way, clearly from a book somewhere, immediately I was like, yeah, whatever, like whatever go back to whatever book that came from, go continue reading. Like this isn't going to work on me. And so, unfortunately, I kind of had a little bit of attitude when it came to that. And so, I kind of remember that, and I think I didn't like it when somebody talked to me like that. I felt like, what are you trying to do here? Like you're not talking to me. Like this is just some kind of thing that you're doing that is ridiculous. But as a leader now, I try to avoid that. And I try just to, yes, you want to learn because it can help you give ideas, but then make it your own. Like make it authentic. So make sure that you're real when you're talking, that you're a person. You're not a title with a framework talking to somebody else.
Agile 101.
Oh dear God.
I am a
have so many
certified
horror
Scrum
stories.
Master. Certifiable too, I think. Yeah, it's. I mean, and nothing against the certified Scrum Masters out there. You know, I'm even eyeing getting that certification myself, just so I can say yes, I do actually know this. But it's like I was in a conversation with a colleague, and we're like, well, I needed to. I think I pulled something out of the backlog. It's like, you know, we're not going to do this. Let's just pull it out of the sprint. And she's like, well, she said that's fine, but you know, the Scrum guide says not to do that. And I said, well, let me go read the Scrum guide because it's only a 4-page, or 8 page, something like that. So I went back and I looked, and I came back and said, it does not say that. What it says is the backlog for the sprint needs to be continually updated. Which is like, oh, did they change that since I got my training? I said it's possible, but then again, it is not possible. I've made this quote before. It is not possible to get, you know, $10,000 worth of training material spread across 8 different certifications out of an 8-page book.
Yes.
You know, you're inventing and piling all these other things on top of it. And some of it's great advice, and some of it is absolute malarkey.
And I thought unnecessary prequels in sequels in Hollywood are bad. I have one question. It's probably super difficult, but how do you manage upwards?
That is an art. It requires a lot of diplomacy, a lot of, I'm going to say, selective use of filters. So you know how earlier I said we have to be aware of our own filters for how we interpret information when we're in a conversation with somebody else. We also have to know when to apply a filter because we want to be able to have a productive conversation. So I always talk about embracing healthy conflict. It's hard. It's very hard because the person you're talking to doesn't necessarily have the ability to have that conversation productively. They may think they do, but they don't necessarily do. So it's tricky because, first of all, most of us want to keep our jobs. Most of us, have mortgages to pay, food to buy. So, we don't want to suddenly be fired. So we want to be cautious of what we say. At the same time, if we're trying to advance, let's say there's a problem we're trying to solve, then we need to address it. So managing up means being aware of where that person is, what they're capable of understanding, what they're capable of, I'm going to say taking, in the sense that some people think they can take criticism, but they don't. Like when you actually do, they get resentful, it festers, and then at some point it comes back and bites you. So if you're aware that that person's unable to do that, then you will pay attention to the words you use, how you present the information. And I know that one of my favorite ways is always, I'm not sure if I understand correctly. I just want to confirm, if I understand correctly, that this is what we would be doing. So just because I'd like to dig a little more into it, what would be the consequences if we did this thing? Oh, okay. But what about if we did this other thing? So it's always approaching it from a place of, I'm going to say, humility and curiosity. And that is non-threatening, right? So usually if you need to manage up, it's because the person typically won't have the self-confidence to comfortably receive criticism. And you don't want to trigger that. So you're going to approach it in a much more calm and, like I said, using humility and curiosity. So that way it's non threatening. And usually the message passes much better.
If I could follow up on that, I'm not sure how to phrase this as a question. This is a statement that I'm intending as a question. That's how I
All
kind
right.
of ask most of my questions. Um, well, I guess part of it I can phrase as a question is like, what do you do in the cases where, like, we all hope we have the boss who at least can learn from that
Yeah.
and cares, and at least they can pick up on the hints that you're
Yeah.
very gently and politely laying down. What do you do when you're dealing with an actual bad actor? Because I know there's a number of people that deal with the boss who actually is toxic, and they even know they're toxic and they don't care.
Yeah.
um, because one of the things I've done, and you can tell me if this is right or wrong or what to add to this, one of the things I found I can do is that I can launch what I kind of refer to as a flank attack. Instead of going after the person or necessarily the channels that they may have contaminated with their toxic behavior, because like traditional channels are often clogged by that
Right.
point. I will instead try to identify what are the communication habits that have trickled down in the organization to people around me. How can I help them improve the communication? Because if I can improve the
Yeah.
environment around me and actually get conversations going and get them talking to people across the organization, then the bad actor will expose themselves.
Yeah, that's really like it's a great approach. I'm just going to start with that. That's a great approach. Also, it really depends on the environment. I mean, I've worked in unionized environments where it was pretty much impossible to have someone fired. And I've had to deal with some extremely toxic behavior, like actively undermining other individuals, just really horrible behavior. But we had to deal with it because there was nothing that we could do. We took all the channels, like we went all the routes that we were supposed to go, HR complaints, all that stuff. It was investigated, all the things, and the person was still there. And then we had to deal with the fact that now we had gone through this whole experience of HR meetings and all that stuff. But now the person was even worse because we had done that and they were super angry now. And so their behavior like doubled down in toxicity. And so we had to deal with that. And so it really depends in the environment that you're in. And I would say that if it's possible, when you're in that type of situation, of course, it's an extreme case, right? But if you are in that type of situation, I would elaborate on what you suggested and create a bubble of more positive individuals if it's possible. Because sometimes we can't as readily change jobs. If it's possible, yeah, get out. But if if it's not, if there are many reasons that maybe why we can't go right now, maybe we need to stay, then try to find that positive bubble that can at least protect you and find that outlet for that anger because it will create anger. It is hard when you have to work with someone who's toxic. It is hard to take. It creates a lot of anger. It creates resentment. It creates all kinds of like high blood pressure, I'm going to say. And so you need that outlet. And so it's looking after yourself and then creating that group, that network of people that you can talk to and just kind of go, am I crazy? Like, am I the one who is wrong here? Because I always take it through an introspective cycle, right? Just first, is it
Mhm.
me? Like,
Mhm.
am I the one? I take it back. It's funny. I take it back to that example. The singing competitions, and then there's that person who comes, and you're like, holy jeez, how do you think that you can sing? Like, my ears hurt. And so I always try, like, am I that person who thinks she's really awesome and dealing with this appropriately and totally off track? So I have my network of trusted individuals
Right.
that I go to and I go, okay, tell me, like, am I in the wrong here? Am I crazy here? And then and I say trusted because if I did do something wrong, they're going to tell me.
Mhm.
So they're not my team members at work because if they may not tell me, especially if there's that positional power thing, they may be concerned about what's going to happen. So they're not going to tell me the unfiltered truth. I have my group of trusted people who tell me the unfiltered truth. And then it's like, okay, if I need to correct something, then I will. I'll work on that. But then if I'm not, because the other person truly is toxic, then it's recognizing it for what it is and saying, okay, well, right now I'm in a situation where I cannot do anything about it. I have to figure out how to deal with it. And then it's finding that safe place where I can function and when I can do what I need to do until whatever. And sometimes you're just in a position where you're gaining a lot. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to do this and figure out how to deal with that.
And if you're yourself a leader, then creating that bubble means you may be creating some calm within the storm for everyone else that's,
Absolutely.
working with and beneath an organizational structure.
Absolutely.
I know there was a company that a lot of the managers there, their express and stated purpose to their teammates is like, look, I am buffering you from insert name of person in upper leadership. It's like,
Yep.
go through me because because everyone knew this particular person was completely nuts. A huge organization, and it's just like, look, I'm your buffer. Go through me.
Yep.
Let's
Yep.
work together. We'll go deal with
Absolutely.
them because I know how to deal with them.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And I've been in those positions as well. And I remember when I had a particular supervisor who was all about the bonuses, did not care about the team members. It was, I don't care as long as I get my bonus. And so I want you to do this and this and this, and your team has to do this and this. And why is your team? So I would go, yep, okay, and go back to my team, just protect the team. They were amazing individuals, and that's the interesting thing too. I make that distinction between like a leader and a boss, and I really feel like I'm a leader and embrace leadership in the sense that I care, genuinely, truly, from the bottom of my heart, care about the people. I care about the team members, and my role is still to ensure that the organization survives in the sense that I have to look after financials and all that stuff. And at the same time, I want the individuals to flourish, to feel like they can grow both as people and in their careers. And so I will be that person embracing that leadership. But more and more people are, that movement of people centric leadership is growing.
I'm remembering that meme on LinkedIn. You've probably seen it where it shows the difference between boss and leader. It shows the boss using the employee as the golf club, and then the leader watering him like a plant. And it's
Yep. That's pretty much it.
and of course the organization needs to do well. Otherwise, the employees don't do well. The employees do well because the organization does well, but the organization does well when the employees do well. If you sacrifice one for the other, then
Exactly. And it was interesting because recently I was talking with someone who their organization just became 100% employee owned and talking about the impact of that and how when team members are also owners, then it created a whole new dynamic where they felt a lot more in control of their future, which is a nice place to be because often as team members, like, we don't feel in control of anything. Like, it's always somebody else who's telling us how to do things and how our future is going to go. But when you own part of the company, it's an amazing thing that you can do to be more in control. No, I thought it was pretty cool.
and that is what a lot of people are aware of the problem with micromanagement. Obviously, Gilbert's boss, um, uh, but then there's something else I was seeing in an organization recently where some friends of mine work, where there's the opposite problem, and there's over delegation, where there's almost no accountability between this one layer in the organization. And as a result, the person right below that layer is able to get away with everything short of murder. How do you thread that needle between not micromanaging but not over delegating either? I mean, I find that tricky,
Yes.
even in terms of just leading technical
Yes.
developers.
Yes. It's something that I've was exposed to more because what before I started leading a tech company, I was in a more traditional area. So I was again unionized environment, public service, so super rigid. So when I was exposed to this um, private enterprise model, which was the flat organization, I was like, what is going on here? This is chaos. So, and so I do feel that my preferred style is in the middle. Like let's meet each other in the middle. I don't like this super stuffy corporate. Nobody can talk to anybody without permission. Hey, you went over my head. How dare you? Kind of attitude. I can't breathe in that. But I also don't function well in nobody is accountable for anything ever because we need to find that middle ground. At some point, we need to be able to say, you're responsible for this. And if you didn't do this and you let your team members down, we need to do something about that. We can't just be like, oh, well, flat organization. No. So let's meet in the middle. And so create some form of structure, some form of accountability, and take it from there. And I always liken it to screenwriting. So screenwriting has a structure, storytelling has a structure, and it's ancient. It's like thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and it still works today. However, that structure is just the base, the foundation. There's lots of room to do whatever you want. You can tell the story whichever way you want within that 3 act structure. It does just because there's structure doesn't mean it has to be stuffy. There's lots and lots of room for creativity. So it's the same with an organization. You need that basic structure to keep it together so it's coherent, so it makes sense. And then you can just build in there and have whatever organization you want, the leadership style that you want, your culture that you want, and all that stuff. So I was actually reading an article fairly recently on transformational leadership and how that was the most positively impactful type of leadership. And they brought up the laissez-faire type of leadership, that whole hey, do whatever, whenever, and organize yourself. And they said that that was not as good for the mental health of team members than transformational. So transformational means you're there, you're guiding people, you're listening to people, you're involved. So I thought it was
So
interesting.
yeah, that is. So once you have that structure, then how can a leader make sure that they're not over delegating? Because like I said, I kind of struggle with that. It's like, well, on the one hand, I want to trust my teammates to make decisions and not demanding account for every single thing they're doing. On the other hand, I
Hmm.
want to, sometimes I find that, oh, I should have caught this problem a lot sooner because I didn't check something that I should have checked, or I should have followed up on something because I didn't realize that they didn't realize they had enough information. I didn't realize they had enough information.
Yeah.
And I could have saved us a whole lot of time had I said something sooner. Like, where's that middle ground when you're doing
That's going to vary with the team. So it depends on the makeup of the team. If you have a team of individuals who are newer, they are likely going to need more guidance until they ramp up, until they feel comfortable, and until they've gained your trust. Let's face it, because you don't know them yet. And so if you have this team member that appears like they're going to be, knocking everything out of the park on time as you're hoping, then great. But until you know that, it's hard to give them that trust. So you need to be a little bit more involved. If you have a team of more senior people, you may need to spend less time guiding them with what needs to be done, but more in keeping them connected to the organization's bigger mission. Like, what is your role? Why does what you do help the organization, help the other teams? How does it impact the client? So, how does your work mean something? What is the value of your work? And tie that to the bigger strategy. And I think because newer team members are still learning how to do like the day to day tasks, and typically more seasoned individuals They know how to accomplish the tasks, but they need to kind of be reminded of the bigger picture so that they can contribute more and help advance more and help the leader spot problems earlier on.
Hmm, here it is. It's a Café kudzu, a rare subspecies of the kudzu vine that takes over coffee shops in relentless pursuit of caffeine.
How do we stop it?
It says here to pour a cold brew coffee on the roots.
Got it. Cold brew. I'll have to start a new batch though. Does it say whether it takes cream or sugar?
Nope. Oh, but this is important. It says may become angry if given decaf.
Yes, we've found that much out already.
So, Jocelyn, as being someone who's in that position several of times, when you're a very good developer and you're making a bunch of cool software, then people decide to promote you and you become manager. And then instead of doing the cool software work, you just have to deal with messy humans that don't do the software. They are very poor compilers. I
Yeah.
give them instruction and they do not produce the code I want. So, any advice for software developers who one day wake up and realize, oh my gosh, I'm a manager?
I've been promoted out of my
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yeah. You know what? I've seen this throughout various organizations where leaders are identified as, oh, you're my, and okay, I'm going to use this term loosely, quote unquote, best. No slight to anybody else who hasn't been picked, but usually it's like, oh, you're my best developer. All right, you're going to be the team leader now because you're so awesome at what you do. Now, there are a few things that happen here. First of all, does the person even want to manage people? It is very different. Being someone who does highly technical work all day and moving to I am leading emotions and feelings and human behavior and all the things. There are two different things. Does the person even want to do that? There's this unfortunate, I'm going to say societal pressure that people should want the promotion. They should want to become, directors and all that stuff. No, no. Just because someone prefers, makes the choice to deepen their knowledge and expertise, but are not chasing a title, that does not make them less valuable than the person who is chasing the title. So that is the first thing, making sure that we're identifying the right people who are interested in doing that and not promoting a culture that v- uh, values those who are chasing the titles more than those who aren't. They're both extremely valuable to an organization, and we need to make sure that they're both valued the same way.
Yeah, and a lot of the times what I see in companies is that usual people accept those positions because that's the only practical way to get a salary increase. Because if you
Yeah,
stay as a software developer, you're not going to get a salary raise. But in order to get bigger salary, you need to move to management. And I know
absolutely.
gazillion of people who basically, I don't like this, but I need to make money.
Oh my god!
Yeah, yeah,
And it's funny too because what organizations do to themselves is then they promote everyone who's good at their job out of doing their job, so the only people who are left doing the job by time
yep,
they've come through and called out all the leaders and all the people who all the master craftsmen and turn them into managers. Then the only people who are left behind are journeymen who have no idea what on earth they're doing. Because they
and
can't really be managed effectively by someone who's been promoted to manager because the manager doesn't get the code anymore.
absolutely. And that is a very real problem that needs to be addressed. How are we compensating individuals? Could there be some form of bonus for retention? Could there be some form of profit sharing? Could there be some form of track for individuals who don't want to manage people, but they are continuously uh, deepening their expertise? And I think I saw this somewhere. I think they called it principal. I forget the term, but I believe I saw that it was for someone who had a deep, deep expertise, but was not going to manage people. And so they were compensated fairly for that level of expertise, as they should. So that's definitely a component of it. And I absolutely understand. So let's say, just to come back to what do you do? You've been promoted. Let's say it wasn't your first choice, but hey, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. So first of all, I think the first thing to do is to recognize that failure will happen. And especially as a new leader, we fear that if a failure happens, I'm going to say on our watch, that reflects on us as, oh, see, they made the wrong choice. I'm just not right for the role. No, failure will happen. It's all in how you deal with it and what you do when it does happen. Are you teaching the team that, hey, it's okay, it's normal? Obviously, depends on the consequences of what that failure is. But let's say it's something that isn't super dramatic. So, okay, yep, this didn't work out the way I was expecting. With the information I had at the time, everything should have tracked this way. It didn't. Okay, that's fine. Now we're focusing on solutions. So that does a couple of things. As a leader, it helps you build up your repertoire of successes, because when you're a newer leader, you don't have a lot of those. And so because when, it's not if, it's when failure happens, then it will impact you a lot more if you don't have that repertoire of success. So start building that up, going, okay, I'm doing this well. This didn't work. It's okay. It's normal. It's not the end of the world. It's not because I'm so terrible and I don't belong in this role. Just accept that it is. So, does that for you as a leader build up that confidence that, yes, you belong in that role? The second thing it does is it teaches the team that it's okay. It teaches the team that if they do something and it doesn't work out, they're not going to try to sweep it under the rug because they've watched you react improperly at a failure. And because if they try to sweep it under the rug, the longer it stays there, potentially it may be causing more damage. And so you want to model that and show them, hey, it's okay. And so it kind of helps build the confidence as you grow as a leader. And again, it models that, hey, the team will come to you if they do something. And you want that. You don't want to be managing secrets. That's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like our mutual friend Andrea Goulet, who's actually had coffee with us here in the cafe before. It's like she says of legacy code. It's not bad. We did the best we could with what we knew at the time.
Absolutely.
No,
Yep.
I had a that happened on a team I was managing on a technical project, and we had something that just went completely south in terms of like, oh, we got to completely rewrite this, whatever, and the person responsible for that is like, oh, I failed. I failed everyone. I said, no, you did the best you could with what you had at the time.
Hmm.
You didn't have the rest of this information, so you made the best decision with what you knew, and that even doesn't even qualify as a mistake at this point. It's this, now we have more information. Now we can adjust based on what we didn't know before.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And just to add again to what that new leader could do, one of the things is recognize that you now have positional power, and that will change the relationship with the team, especially if you're now leading a team that you were part of before. It will change the relationship. Recognize it and don't try to be, I'm going to say, don't try to be a friend. Try to be friendly. I absolutely believe that we should be friendly. But you are now in a position where one day you may need to reprimand someone, you may need to let go of someone, and you have to start drawing those lines, those emotional lines. And I'm going to say for yourself, because as a leader, I think one of the worst things is having to let someone go, having to reprimand someone. And if you have to do it when someone's your friend, whew, That is next level difficult as a human being. so start drawing those lines. Stay authentic to who you are, though. And I say this frequently, that I was told that I laughed too much, that I was too joyful and too almost like silly to be taken seriously. It's like, you know what? I'm authentic, and people liked me. And I've actually had someone, this is very funny to me anyway. I had someone when I was a supervisor ask another supervisor, why do they like her so much? Like an absolute, like, why do they like her so much? And first of all, it's not everybody liked me, but people liked me because I cared. And if you're going to be a leader, again, that's one of the things, get to know. If you grew out of that team, then you already know your team members. But if you weren't, if you're assigned a new leader to a different team, get to know the people and be authentic. Don't be the supervisor that I'm supposed to be because I read in a book that this is how I'm supposed to behave. That is not going to fly. And if you're in a new team, on a new team that the people don't know you, they may not know what it is about you that they don't trust, but they'll be like, I don't know, there's something. And it's because you're not being authentic. And
People
I'm
can
not
tell when you're
saying,
inauthentic.
they really can. And it's almost like a survival thing. Like, can I trust this person? I don't know. There's something. Can't put my finger on it. There's something. And it's because you're trying to be somebody you're not. So be yourself. Of course, professional, right? I'm not saying be unprofessional, like, stay within a certain confined space, but be yourself. I'm not talking like oversharing and all that stuff. As a leader, you do have to model behavior. And if I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to show up, I'm in a bad mood, I'm being authentic. No, I don't do that, because nobody benefits from that. So I recognize that, okay, I have to show up, and my behavior is going to impact on the team, so recognize that. So I'm going to put a little bit of a filter on that. But I may say, like, you know what, I'm having a rough day. So if I sound a little bit snippier than usual or something like that, that's what's going on with me. It's not you. So that does help the team member understand, if they come to you with a problem and you appear perhaps dismissive, they're not going to internalize that, oh man, they're mad at me, or did I do something, or am I in trouble, or something like that. They'll be like, oh, she's having a bad day, so I get it. So those are a few things that a new leader could do.
Those are great. I mean, yeah. Filtered does not mean it contains artificial ingredients.
That's it. Yeah.
You don't have to add
And being
anything.
authentic,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And being authentic doesn't mean oversharing either. Like, we hear that, be vulnerable. Yeah, okay, there's a difference between being vulnerable and showing up with my box of Kleenex and, whatever. So I am still the leader. So
Being that island of sanity in the midst of chaos.
exactly. And it's building that trust and just continuing to add for the new. I keep getting new ideas. Another thing that you could do is really get to know the individuals, especially if you don't know the individuals on the team. Get to know them both as people and as what are their career aspirations. So one of the things I really, really believe in is supporting team members, like, fully in their whole human selves. So I really believe in finding out, like, during the one-on-ones, what do you want as a person. And that's where I had some very good conversations with individuals who were like, I feel bad because I'm not that career climber. I'm not someone who wants to be a team leader. I'm not someone who wants to. I love what I do and I'd like to just keep doing that. But I feel this pressure to be a career climber. I said, you know what? I get it. Like, no, this, you're valuable to the organization. And that was helpful to the person to finally hear, no, you don't have to want the promotion. And so get to know the person. What do they want? And assuming that it's not something super crazy, reassure them that yes, it makes sense, and that you are enough as a human. You don't need to be a different person. And so understand that. And then that second part is, okay, for the organization, how can I support you, bring more value to the organization, and really help support them? So one of the things, just an example of what it may appear irrelevant. So I had someone, and the person was like, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not eating well. I'm not exercising. I'm barely sleeping. And so this person was always tired at work. So the best thing I could do for this person as a human being and for the organization was to encourage this person in eating well, sleeping habits, exercising. So on the surface, you think, no, you're just supporting the person. But this person being healthier as a human has a positive impact on the employee and on the organization. So, supporting the whole human is actually good for business.
But of course, being aware going into it, I have to add to that. I believe strongly in that as an internship supervisor, but I also discovered, and I warn other people that want to be internship mentors. It's like, um, yeah, uh, you will wind up also being, especially with junior developers, but at any level, you will also wind up being oftentimes the one of the first responders for mental crises as well.
Yes.
And so you also have to be aware that if they're having a breakdown, if they're having a panic attack, if they're if they're depressed, if they're grieving, if they're whatever it is, when they
Yeah.
fall apart,
Yeah.
you're usually the person that's going to be picking up the pieces initially. So
Yeah.
be prepared not only to pick them up, but also have the resources on hand to be able to direct them to the people that can help them.
Exactly. And
Go ahead.
that is something that is essential to keep in mind. Thank you for bringing that up, because absolutely, in building that trust and supporting whole humans, we are frequently the first ones who hear about all the things that are happening. And I've heard so many things from a number of team members over the years and what they were going through, and sometimes it's just them trying to explain why they're not at work as much or why their productivity is suffering. Where I remember a while ago, I was brought onto a new team, and I was told this person's a bad employee. I'm like, what? They were like, yeah. They like, their productivity sucks. You just have to get this person back to being a good productive employee. I'm like, okay, let me just talk. So I spoke to the person as a person, not with the guise of, your productivity is terrible, so you need to bring that up. My approach was, hey, what's going on with you? Like, I'd just like to get to know you a little bit better. This person was on the brink of something that it was super horrible what they were going through, but they hadn't shared it with anyone because it's so private, and because everybody, the previous manager that was there, was treating this person like they were a bad person. No, it's what they're going through was so hard, so difficult, it was bleeding into them at work. You cannot shut off what was going on in their lives. Like, it stays with you. You're there. It was a lot. Clearly I'm not going into what it was, but
Mhm.
it was a lot. And so then I was able to identify, okay, you need support, like professional support. I can't provide you that, and that's so important. Like you just mentioned, Jason, so important to have the resources on hand. We are not licensed therapists. We do not want to go there. We do not want to make it worse or say things like, oh, you'll be fine or whatever. Just recognize that what they're going through is really hard, and say, thank you for trusting me with that was probably very difficult to share. And I think that you may benefit from speaking with someone who has expertise and could support you even better. So here is, let's say, the employee assistance number or something like that. Very important to not try to play therapist. Like, be there,
Absolutely.
support them, but then provide them with the real professional trained help that's going to help get them through what they're going through.
And that total tangent, but that also brings to mind something that everybody can do, whether they're a leader or not. Is that more people need to learn the signs of domestic abuse.
Yes.
and they need to learn the signs of just basically not just oh well, do they have bruises or whatever, but
Yeah.
where there are people who like a romantic partner or family member or whatever is calling them constantly, or is
Hmm.
following them to work, or is having inappropriate conversations with other people, trying to find out and get information on them, whatever. Learn the signs. There's so many resources to learn the signs, and then say something, because an organization, although we're not therapists, an organization has a unique ability when there's a domestic abuse situation of being able to close around a person, form a protective bubble, and provide them the resources they need to be able to reach out and get help, but be that safe place that when they go to work, it's almost like work closes behind them and that abuser
Hmm.
can't get to them. We
Hmm.
can create that environment if we're aware that it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree 100%.
This has been marvelous, as always. I always love conversations in the cafe, and you are no exception. It's fun to be able to talk about leadership and facilitation, because like I do so much coding, and people look at me and go, "Oh, he's a coder." Well, I do it because it's there, but
Hmm.
the reality is my passion lays with leading and facilitating and enabling. That's what I love doing, enabling people to
Yeah.
be their best and to go places. So I'm definitely in that category of I want to be a manager.
Yeah.
And I know, Boyan, you're more of the give me the code, let me code. You got
We
both
do
sides of the coin here.
we do have a unique I guess positional ability to impact people positively. And we can help some new maybe team members who are coming in, and you don't know where people come from, and maybe they just need a little bit of encouragement. Maybe they haven't received a lot of encouragement in the past. Maybe they went through high school. I remember actually I had a team member who in high school was bullied a lot, and she carried that with her. And when she came to my team, she was just kind of so closed off, reserved, but it was a result of what she had gone through that she was still carrying with her. But I was looking at her, I was like, "You're amazing. You're funny. You're interesting. You're super smart. I love hanging out with you." So we became friends after, not again, not becoming friends while we're not while she was a team on my team, but after. But I was like, "This person's amazing." So I helped support her and build up her confidence, and later she became leader and all that stuff, and passed it forward to other people who may be going through the same thing. So we don't, and it's not always like that. I mean, sometimes people are already happy and life is good and all that stuff, and we're just helping them grow their career. But we do have that potential for impact, which is really special. And it's not to say it's always easy. I'm just going to say that, because toxic team members are real, and when you have to deal with that, it is emotionally draining. And that's another thing. Just coming back to it, when you're a new leader, something else to watch out for. I've been in a position where I had someone who, at first, I didn't recognize as toxic because they seemed so nice, and they so nice, but they were coming to me go, "Well, I don't want anybody to be in trouble or anything, but did you know that so and so does blah 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 blah?" And so they were constantly pointing out what so and so was doing and what so and so was doing, and did you know so and so didn't do this? At one point, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This person is always coming to me talking about other people. Something's going on here. And at first, because I was new and I didn't have that kind of insight, I would go see the person and go, "Hey, so apparently you're not doing this and that and the other thing." And the person was, "What the?" But in time, I came to recognize that it was this one person who was always coming to me who was actually very, very toxic and was enjoying creating trouble. It was enjoying creating drama within the team. And was what this person was trying to do was become like my sole source of information and separating everybody else by
Isolation.
creating conflict with the other team members so that this person essentially could manipulate and control the team. So you'd think like that's crazy. That's right out of a TV show or a movie, but it's real. And there are people like that. And so as leaders, we need to also recognize that just because somebody comes to us with a problem about, ooh, this person isn't doing this or this person's problematic, let's say, okay, I'm going to verify the information with an open mind. Not saying that the person who comes to you is necessarily a bad actor, but they may be. So it's
Be a
important
positive
to
skeptic.
exactly a positive skeptic and kind of learn in time, like, okay, who is who, and what kind of person are they, and what are their true intentions. So that's something to grow into as well.
A lot of good information. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. And I loved my coffee, and that vine just stayed away from it. I just covered it the whole time, so we're good.
There you go. I guess it just needs authority.
Yes.
Bug Hunters Cafe, this is Jess. Yes, sir. We're open 24/7 at Bug Hunters Cafe. You can also find us on LinkedIn and on Mastodon as Bug Hunters Cafe and hackiderm.io. The music is provided by audionautics.com. We have a link on our website. What did you ask? Whether we are plant friendly? Oh, pet friendly. Yes, you're welcome to bring your pet. Right now, a goat would be especially welcome. You too. See you soon. Don't you threaten me, you goony geranium. You stop this nonsense right now, or I might just water you with a piping hot Americano instead. Now, gather yourself up in a neat little heap and behave yourself, or there will be no cold brew for you.
Wow, how did you do that?
You just gotta speak their language.